Hi, it's Mary Gonzalez again, the CEO and founder of Stella's Casa. Today, I just wanted to make a video, um, tell people a little bit more about me in general. I know I look pretty crazy. This is what you look like playing Supermom on your day off of work. I look crazy. I look tired. Um, I look a little more mature than I'd like to. Um, but this is me. I think that's one thing that I can say about myself today is I've learned how to be comfortable with Mary. Like, I know I just talked about myself in the third person, but I like being comfortable with myself, like my authentic, carefree, unapologetic self. And it wasn't always like that for me. I'm a CRS, so that's Certified Recovery Specialist, and that I guess means that I'm supposed to be a specialist in recovery. And I would like to think so because I have a plaque or a degree hanging on my office wall that says that's what I am, but I don't know if I've ever really specialized in anything in my entire life. But yeah, I wanted to give you a little more background story of myself. And even though I hate this, being on YouTube, being in front of a camera, I'm starting to get used to it a little bit. In privacy of my own bedroom. I usually have to wait till my kids go to sleep before I'm able to do anything for myself. I'm sure some of you can relate. But yeah, I grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, single mom on welfare, and I had a rough childhood, just like a lot of other people did, um, do, and I remember when I decided to smoke my first joint, right? Um, First time I smoked weed, I think it was actually out of this like wooden pipe they used to call dugouts back in the day. And I remember being nervous, like super apprehensive. Um, I remember being a little scared. I wasn't sure what to expect, but at the same time, I was like filled with like anticipation, like I couldn't wait to try weed for the first time. And honestly, like I loved it. I loved how it made me feel. I felt giddy, happy, like joyful. Um, I kind of fell in love. It was like love at first sight. And and I don't think I was ever one of those like recreational drug users. Like I was one of those drug users that jumped in 2 feet, or like head first, like whichever. I used drugs and then I abused them, and most of the people I associated with were the same way. We are definitely addicts in the making. I felt like drugs made me feel like I fit in finally. I was this nerdy little girl growing up. I was a dirty girl. I'd go to school with like the cleanest dirty clothes that I could find, and I stank, and my hair wasn't brushed, and I was really malnourished. Like I was really little, and I didn't know how to read really. You know, um, Nobody ever sat down and taught me how to read or brush my hair or take care of myself really. And I was picked on. I was bullied a little bit. Back then they didn't call it bullying. You were just picked on, and They used to say something like sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And listen, some of those words hurt. You know, some of them really did. um, excuse me. But no, they did. They like genuinely hurt and they stuck with me. You know, and I was in the small classroom, so that was even better, especially back in the 80s. I was extremely picked on. Um, so I tried everything to fit in. I tried sports. I played the violin. I played baseball and softball and basketball and volleyball. And I played all these sports because I thought if I belonged to a team or to an orchestra or to something, then that would make me feel a part of. But I still never really felt a part of. Like, I always kind of felt different than everybody. And we kind of took that away. I found my niche in Earth, on this planet, on this floating rock. Like, I found my people, and I thought, these are the people I'm gonna just hang out with for the rest of my life. The druggies, the potheads, the rejects, the kids that were abused, neglected, the kids whose parents got high. Like, I was gonna hang out with those people because I could relate to those people, because I felt like they seen me, you know, and that's what I did, you know. And I remember along the way, like, comparing myself to other addicts. Like, I remember saying, well, like, I won't be like my parents, and I won't be like, you know, those people that are strung out, or those addicts that are like bad off. Like, I won't be like them. And everything I said I wouldn't do, you know, like the won't list that I had, you know, like, I won't try this particular drug, or I won't do this particular thing. And like, you know, that list, I slowly over the years, like, just started like checking stuff off. Like, you know, I remember comparing myself to the addict that I thought was like the worst addict in town, and before I knew it, like, I became that addict that everybody compared themselves to. You know, I don't really want to share a whole bunch of war stories, because we all have our own war stories. We all have stories that we've shared with counselors or POs or judges or family members, or in church basements or meetings. And, you know, we all have those stories. It was just bad. It was really, really bad. I ended up homeless, literally eating out of a dumpster behind Papa John's. And I had money in my pocket. Like, I had a job. Even at the end of my active addiction, like, I still managed to keep a job. That's because they allowed me to use at work. I worked at a Papa John's. I was a delivery driver, delivering pizzas. And excuse me. I had nothing. I had burnt so many bridges by that point in time in my life. I really didn't have any friends. I had abandoned my family, including my 1.5-year-old son, and gotten arrested a bunch of times, and, you know, just didn't really want to live anymore. You know, I didn't necessarily want to kill myself. But it seems like the one thing that I had that made me feel a part of, that made me feel whole, that made me feel happy and giddy and or numb and content, like, stopped working. Like, the drugs stopped working. And I had tried a combination of drugs. Like, I had basically tried every single drug I possibly could. by this time, and I had my favorites, you know, and they just stopped working. I couldn't get high enough to escape the reality of my life, or I couldn't get high enough to numb the pain that I was experiencing in my life at that time. You know, I had gotten arrested. I had made the front page of local paper, and I had become that addict that nobody else wanted to be around, and didn't want to end up like, you know, nobody wanted to end up like Mary. The funny part is I remember being in this bar one night, and this junkie that I used to compare myself to sitting on the bar, and I'm pretty sure he was trying to 12-step me. Like, he was trying to convince me that I had a problem and that I should go get help before I die. And I had already come to in hospitals a couple times. I had already wrecked a couple cars, and I had already gotten to the point where I didn't care if I woke up anymore. Like, I didn't want to wake up. I remember one night, after that conversation, I went and drove up to this Outlook that I was staying at in the middle of the woods, and I was getting high and drunk, and climbed up on top of this big boulder, and there's like this fence that let you know that like you shouldn't do that. And I climbed up on top of it anyway, and I wanted to jump. I didn't realize like what was underneath. I just thought if I jumped out far enough, I would probably land hard enough to not wake up anymore. And I ended up actually losing my footing. I slid off this rock down this embankment, like at least 150 feet, and got covered in glass and all kinds of crap because I've been throwing bottles down this cliff side for a couple of weeks. And yeah, excruciating pain. Luckily I was too messed up to actually like feel it, like, but I survived yet again. You know, so many close calls, so many times I probably shouldn't have made it, but I made it, and I can only thank, you know, the God of my understanding for that. One thing looking back, and I'm not a really religious person at all. I've tried to be religious in my life, and it never really quite worked out for me. I always felt some kind of detachment or disconnect. Like, it just didn't work for me, but I've always been a spiritual person. I've always believed in God. But I always felt like he was with me, you know, even those difficult times when I was getting picked on or bullied back in the day. All the abuse and neglect and crazy times in my life, all the times I put myself through dangerous, scary situations I really shouldn't have made it out of and did. I felt like he was with me. I remember praying to him, and not just, God, help me get out of this one, you know? Not foxhole prayers, but like soul-wrenching prayers, like prayers that I was pleading for his mercy, for his help, because I couldn't stop. You know, I was the addict that got high when they wanted to, when they didn't want to. Like, I remember trying to control my addiction and substitute one drug for another, and like yada yada yada, like this same old spiel. Like, I'm sure a lot of people already tried. Like, and I just could not stop. And I didn't care about dying. I didn't care about jails and institutions. And I didn't care about me. I stopped caring about me. I thought my son deserved a better mother. My mother deserved a better daughter. The world would kind of be better off without, an addict like me. And I just felt like hopeless. Like there was absolutely no help for an addict like me to get clean. Like how was I gonna stop? I couldn't stop for my child or my mother or the state of Pennsylvania. My brother, who was my best friend, who at 17, when I was 17, he was like 18, and he tried to get me to like see the light and see what I was doing to myself and my family, and I just couldn't stop. Like I couldn't stop using, and so I did this prayer, and I just begged for his help. And I wish I could say that I saw like a burning bush or a bolt of lightning or the skies parted, like, but instead I got arrested again a couple days later. And it was pretty bad, I was looking at some jail time this time, and just nothing good. I was like a couple weeks shy of my 22nd birthday, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. My son's father definitely kicked me out, changed the locks to the house. And we'd been together for a few years, and he tolerated me as long as he possibly could. My son didn't even want me to hold him, be around him. I was like nothing to him. Like I was that parent that even when I was around, because I tried to get clean when I was pregnant with him. I went on the marijuana maintenance program and just smoked weed throughout my pregnancy, and looking back I like regret all of that, but shortly after he was born, like I went right back to being the same old addict that I was, and just throwing him in a high chair and throwing Cheerios on his plate, and just being a horrible human being, man. I was every stereotype of an addict. I was a liar, a cheater, a thief, a manipulator, completely self-obsessed, absorbed, like, living off of fear, anger, and resentment, and just shell of a human being. I don't remember feeling feelings back then. I either felt anger or numb, and I got arrested. My mom tried to call treatment. She said it would impress a judge, and I was really hoping she was right, that it would impress the judge and I would get out of going to jail and everything would be fine. And I went through treatment, and something happened. I was introduced to a 12-step program while I was at this partial program, and for the first time I heard something that I hadn't heard before from another recovering addict, and she just told me that I never had to use again. that I never had to use again. And I didn't grow up in an environment where that was even a possibility. I grew up in an environment where everybody was always in and out of jails, in and out of institutions, dead, using to the very last day of life. All I knew were addicts, including, some of my family members, most of my family members, and all of my associates or friends use drugs. And I didn't know people that got clean. Like, I know people that went to jail, came home, we threw them a party. I know people went to rehab and came home, we threw them a party. And people didn't get clean, that I knew. Like, people just didn't get clean. And I really didn't know if I could. And I remember counting minutes and hours and days. And I remember going to these meetings. We went to 2 different fellowships back then in 2005. And my hair's doing crazy stuff, sorry. I keep playing with my hair. It's like a nervous thing, I think. Anyway, yeah, I went to these meetings and I heard people's stories, and I was shocked that people that were twice my age, with different ethnicity, like, I am a proud Latina, Mexican American, proud of that. Excuse me. Sorry, I need a drink. But yeah, it didn't matter their gender, their age, their race, their culture, their economic background. I was hanging out with doctors and lawyers and, just incredible human beings that gave me hope. Still fighting this stupid cough. They gave me hope. Probably for the first time in my entire life, like, I felt hope that maybe I could stay clean. Maybe I could change. Like, maybe I didn't have to go down the same road like generations before me did in my family. Like, maybe I could do something different. Maybe I could give my kids an opportunity that I felt like I didn't have. Like, maybe I could turn out to be a decent human being. And I wasn't sure what that looked like. I wasn't sure how to do that. But I knew that these people did. Those were the real recovery specialists. Before there was such thing as a recovery specialist. They gave me hugs. They taught me how to make coffee. They taught me humility and setting up chairs and how to be a greeter and give everybody hugs. And they saved my life. They not only saved my life, but they gave me a life. I went from being a ninth grade dropout to a college graduate, and I went from being a pizza delivery chick to working in the drug and alcohol field. I did that predominantly throughout my entire adult life. Recovery has always been a huge part of my adult life. I'm 42 now. And for the last 20 years of my life, except for almost 3 year hiatus. We'll talk about that in a second. But recovery has been my life. And almost from the beginning, I was taught by my predecessors that it's all about being of service to other people, because we can only keep what we have by giving away to other people. And I don't know if these people brainwashed me. No, I used to think they were a cult. I used to think they were like so weird, talking about like 12 steps. Like I thought they were like talking about like Stairway to Heaven and shit. I was a little shot out when I got clean. I cuss, so I don't mean to offend anybody. I try not to cuss a lot. You know, my first sponsor told me the easiest thing to change is your language, the way you talk. I was a sailor at 22. Like, all I knew was profanity. Every other word was a cuss word. Try not to do that now, especially with 4 children. You know, but anyway, these incredible human beings, just taught me so much. You know, I completely lost my train of thought. That's okay. But yeah, being of service and doing stuff for other people. Sometimes when I start thinking about the people that have impacted and touched my life, some of which aren't here anymore, you know, 'cause they got old, you know, they died clean, you know, but they made such an impact on my life, you know. And I had a really small family, you know. It was just me, my mom, and my brother, and, you know, a couple other people scattered here and there. But I really found a family and a fellowship of people. They raised me, you know, they really did. So in recovery, I did a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to do. I basically did everything I was told not to do. I was a punk little kid. I also did a lot of stuff I was told to do. You know, I got really involved in service. I took on commitments. I, you know, believed in sponsorship and sponsoring other people, and not just practicing it in a controlled setting or a meeting, but also utilizing that kind of stuff outside. And I became charitable and generous, and, you know, always trying to help other people. Every year, me and my kids used to make platters and hand them out to people in need, and we still do that. You know, I feel like I've been doing that for about 15 years now. And I don't say that to boast or like brag, because I was the addict who only thought about herself. I was the addict who didn't place anything above herself, not even her own family or her own child. You know, I'm the addict that's completely self-centered to the core of who I am. But I changed. You know, so like I said earlier, I relapsed, right? I was one of those addicts who said I would never, recovering addicts who said I would never, you know. I shared all over the place, and I put myself up on this pedestal, and I ended up relapsing with some time clean, and I never thought I was going to make it back, to be honest with you. I thought that I was just done for. Like, I had gotten my one chance at life, my second chance really at life, and I messed it up, and I took it for granted, and I didn't appreciate what God had done for me. And like spit in his face. He gave me this amazing life with these incredible kids and incredible friends and family and, you know, success and career. And I kind of just spit in his face and told him I didn't want it. And the next 2 years and 11 months and 5 days of my life were hell. I relapsed during COVID, which was not a good time in my life. I don't think it was a good time on this planet. And it was kind of the perfect storm. And I remember a lot of just horrible, horrible things happening during that time. My kids happened to witness it a lot. And, you know, experiencing a lot of shame and guilt. And just feeling like a complete failure. So sorry. Like I feel like I'm just talking to you in my bedroom, like we're besties. Stupid cough. So just like the first time, to be honest, I remember crying in the shower, begging not only God but my mother for help. I had gotten arrested. Of course. That's usually what happens to addicts. And I wasn't really surprised it happened to me. I kind of was asking for it, I guess. And I got arrested and in the shower. I can remember it like it was yesterday, to be honest with you. I was crying out to God, begging my mom to just help me stop because I couldn't stop. I was tired of hurting my kids. You know, they knew me as this clean, sober, recovery mom who showed up for PTAs and so happy and bubbly, and I became the complete opposite of that, and I was even more hopeless and helpless this time around. Because I still had the house, I still had the stuff and the car and the money and the man, and I didn't have me anymore, and I felt like I didn't have God. But he was there, you know. So I'm begging for their help. I'm sober at this time, and I'm just crying out for help. I missed my mother like a whole lot. You know, she had passed away about 2 years and 11 months prior to that, and I missed her. I missed Stella. You know, and I just wanted to stop. So a couple days later, I go out. I call it my last hurrah, right? How many times have I said I was going to stop, and like I never stopped. So I got arrested again, and I felt like it was my mom's way of helping me. It wasn't nice of her to do it like that, or God. You know, they could have just a burning bush, you know, bolt of lightning, something, you know, a flat tire, maybe. Um, but I'm the type of addict that has to end up in handcuffs in order to stop. And apparently, I had to end up in handcuffs twice this last time, and that became my clean date. You know, February 8th of 2021, I finally got 24 hours, you know, and it's been a little over 5 years now back, you know. And I'm a true believer that like one day is a miracle. I couldn't some days, you know, I couldn't even put together 24 hours some days. I would use when I didn't want to use. I would use on a Sunday, on a Tuesday, on a Friday, on a Monday morning if I had to, you know. 1,000 excuses, you know. But the worst part of this relapse is, like, I knew better. Like, I knew I didn't have to use anymore. I knew that I could go to a meeting. I knew I could reach out for help. I knew I had people to call. You know, you spend 13 and a half years of your life devoted to recovery. You develop some friends and family and people that want the best for you. And it was humbling to come back into recovery and go back around these people, and they loved me. You know, of course, eventually some of them told me how my relapse affected them, but they loved me, you know, and these people have been through every hard moment in my life. They've know most of my dirty secrets. I'm sure they all know all of them because they, like, you know, we like to talk, you know, in recovery. Like, but I have no secrets, you know. They say that secrets keep us sick, and I am a true believer of that today. I know what led to my relapse now, and it was those little tiny secrets, you know. They add up. You know, it pushed me out of the rooms. They made me feel like I didn't need anybody. I just needed myself, and I started feeling like that little girl all over again that didn't have anybody, that was alone in a room, and nobody liked her. Everybody judged her. And I realized the hard way that I needed people. And I really needed to do some work on myself. I really genuinely needed to really do some soul searching and some growing up and some honest self-appraisal. Like, take a really honest look at myself and just grow up, you know. So I became a CRS. No. So coming back really wasn't easy. You know, it was really difficult the second time around. I don't recommend it to anybody. But during this transition, it was recommended by a friend that I become a CRS, you know, and I jumped on it reluctantly, but I jumped on it. I didn't understand the point of being certified recovery specialist. I had been back for maybe 2 years, and I was like, I don't really know if I really want to help people ever again. And there was just such a huge part of me that said that I would regret it if I didn't. And maybe like all the pain I've gone through, like whether it was an active addiction or even in recovery. You know, I've battled illness, homelessness, joblessness, to failed marriages. You know, I'm a mother of 4. Just the list goes on and on and on. And like as this channel progresses, maybe you'll hear more and more like all the juicy stuff, you know. But I've gone through a lot in this process, just like I'm sure a lot of you have, and today I'm grateful for that. Because like I said, I eventually realized that God of my understanding was always with me. I was never really alone. You know, and that I do have people in my life today that genuinely love me, and I have to allow them to love me. Just like I love them, you know, and I don't have to be that lonely little girl anymore, that I can be the authentic, unapologetic version of myself today. And I can turn all that pain into purpose, and I can genuinely help people because of my life experience and the fact that it has not been easy at all. Like at all. Like there's been some really high highs, like really great moments, like graduating college and having a career and getting married and having babies and having I never really had the picket fence and the 2 dogs, but like it's on my bucket list of things to do. But I've had really high highs in recovery and really low lows in recovery, and I don't need any more convincing that I'm an addict. That should never use anything ever again for the rest of my life. I have proven that to myself. You know, one thing I do want to say, other than being grateful to my family and my friends and you guys for watching this, just really grateful to God. My life may not be perfect, but the fact that He's given me so many lessons and opportunities to grow throughout my life, like I've never completely given up, or I wouldn't be here today. And I truly love helping other people. Like when I say that, it's not for likes, it's not for accolade, it's not for nothing other than the fact that I like genuinely feel like everybody deserves to be seen. You know, everybody deserves love and respect and support, for somebody to believe in them. Even if they don't believe in themselves, especially if they don't believe in themselves. I really want to make my mom proud. She was really proud of a lot of the accomplishments that I achieved in recovery. But I was foolish, and I was young, and I was arrogant, and It didn't come from a really good place. I just wanted validation from the world, and today I don't need validation from other people. I just really want to make God and my mom proud. I want to make my kids proud of me. I want to make me proud of me. You know, I want to pour love into that little girl who never felt a part of. I want to pour into the 20 and 30-year-old version of me who thought that she was better off doing things on her own because she couldn't trust people, because people were untrustworthy. Like, who never gave herself the opportunity to heal. You know, life be lifing, right? I guess that's what the youngsters say nowadays. But I'm glad I got to the age and the experience and wisdom, I guess, to know that today when life happens, it's not for nothing. There are no coincidences in my life or in my recovery. That everything happens for a reason, whether it's a lesson or a blessing. But if I'm able to take whatever life experience it is, whether it's a good life experience or a really shitty life experience, that I'm able to use that to help somebody. And if it's not to help somebody, you know, win the lottery or find the man of their dreams or the woman of their dreams, even if it's just to help them not feel so alone, so different, so weird, you know, so damaged or broken, incapable of change or recovery. So this is a really long video, but I just have to close with this. Thank you for watching the video. I plan on continuing to make these videos, even though I may not like it or love it that much, even though I may look crazy. And hopefully I made sense. You know what? One thing for sure is, like, this is me, you know? Makeup free, messy hair, bad cough, but a pure heart. I really hope to raise money eventually for Stella's Casa. Whether that's through donations from you guys or even cool celebrities like Jelly Roll or Teddy Swims or any of these other people in recovery, you know, any celebrities I want to donate are able to. Or if anybody wants to donate, I would greatly appreciate it, even if it's just $1, 50 cents. I do have a Cash App. It's Stella's Casa 1959, I believe. I will post it in the description. But yeah, if you could just donate a couple of cents, you know. I have done most of the legwork on getting this started, but I've realized a lot in my 42 years on this planet, and one is that a closed mouth doesn't get fed. If I don't tell people I need help, then I won't get the help that I need. And self-sufficiency is a lie. Like, everybody needs somebody at one point in time in your life. You can't do this thing life on your own. You just can't, and you shouldn't have to either. There's 8 billion people on this planet. So yeah, I need help. I have absolutely no money whatsoever to start this recovery center, and I can't give up on it. It's not even just a recovery center to me. It's like a place for people to come and hang out and maybe be able to stay clean that day. Maybe able to get the help they need to rebuild their families, get back on their feet, restart their life, find a glimmer of hope and a hot meal, new unknown friends. I really want to do this. I'm gonna do it. But I could really use the help from you guys. I'm gonna stop begging, though. It's not very ladylike to beg. It's not very ladylike. So I'm gonna stop. I almost knocked over the camera. That would have been embarrassing. But yes, thank you for listening to my video. Please like, subscribe, share. Please excuse the cough, but please continue to watch the videos. Please Cash App, email, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, and even your stories. Thank you so much.